In the world of Formula One, legends are born and myths are made. But every so often, a driver comes along who doesn't just join the ranks of the greats, they redefine them. Right now, that driver is Max Verstappen. With 61 race wins and 3 world championships under his belt, he's on a path to challenge the all-time greats. But it's not just the numbers that tell his story. It's those heart-stopping, jaw-dropping moments where Verstappen went wheel-to-wheel with F1 legends and emerged victorious. Moments where he didn't just compete, he humiliated them. So, here are 5 of those incredible moments. Verstappen's audacious pass on Fernando Alonso, 2015 Japanese GP. Now, the Suzuka circuit is a track that separates the men from the boys, with one corner that stands above the rest, the infamous 130R. The left-hander isn't just a turn, it's a test of courage. Drivers experience up to 3G of lateral force here, enough to make mere mortals buckle. It's a corner where overtaking is considered madness. But madness, it seems, is Max Verstappen's middle name. In only his 14th Formula One race, driving for the midfield Toro Rosso team, Verstappen found himself staring at the rear wing of Fernando Alonso's McLaren. Alonso, a 2-time world champion, surely thought his position was safe. After all, who would dare attempt to pass at 130R? In a heartbeat, Verstappen pulled out of Alonso's slipstream and went for a daring overtake. One twitch, one miscalculation, and both cars could be hurtling towards the barriers. As they exited the corner, the impossible had happened. Rookie Verstappen had just passed a 2-time champion. This wasn't just an overtake, it was a statement, and the sheer audacity and pinpoint accuracy made it truly special. The move drew comparisons to some of the great overtakes in F1 history. It echoed Mika Häkkinen's famous pass on Michael Schumacher at Spa in 2000.
Brilliantly takes the lead of the Belgian Grand Prix.
A superb!
Yes, he's done it, a brilliant move there, either side of Zonta and Häkkinen.
Or Fernando Alonso's around the outside move on Schumacher at 130R in 2005. In those few seconds, Verstappen didn't just overtake a legend, he overtook expectations. He announced to the world that he wasn't there to make up the numbers. Verstappen against Sebastian Vettel, 2016 Brazilian GP. Max Verstappen, just 19 years old at the time, was in his first full season with Red Bull Racing. He had already made waves in the F1 world, but that weekend in Brazil, he was about to do something truly special. The race started behind the safety car due to terrible weather. When it finally got underway, it was clear that this wasn't going to be a normal Grand Prix. Cars were sliding all over the place, visibility was poor, and the risk of aquaplaning was high. It was the kind of conditions that made even the most experienced drivers nervous. As the race progressed, there was multiple incidents and safety car periods. Verstappen was running well, but a strategic gamble to switch to intermediate tyres didn't pay off. He had to pit again for full wet tyres, dropping him down the order. At this point, many would have written off his chances of a good result. But Verstappen wasn't just any driver. With about 16 laps to go, he was in 16th place. What happened next was nothing short of miraculous. Verstappen began a charge through the field that would go down in F1 history. He was overtaking cars left and right, sometimes 2 or 3 per lap. His car control in those treacherous conditions was simply astounding. He was finding grip where others couldn't, taking lines that seemed impossible.
Max Verstappen, can he keep it out of the barriers just?
Then came the moment that everyone would remember. Verstappen was closing in on Sebastian Vettel, a 4-time world champion driving for Ferrari. Vettel was no slouch in the wet. He was known for his own skill in challenging conditions, but that day he was about to be schooled by the young Dutchman. As they approached turn 3, Verstappen saw an opportunity and overtook Vettel.
Oh, he's giving it a right go again, isn't he? Vettel comes to cover him off, but in doing so, he allows Verstappen the opportunity down the inside. Do they make contact? Sebastian Vettel yields and goes onto the grass as well.
For a moment, it looked like he had gone too far. Surely he would slide off the track, but no, Verstappen somehow found grip where there shouldn't have been any. By the end of the race, Verstappen had climbed all the way to 3rd place. His performance drew comparisons to legendary wet weather drives from the likes of Ayrton Senna and Michael Schumacher. Verstappen outpaced Lewis Hamilton, 2022 Dutch GP. Max had already been having a stellar season, but there's always something special about racing on home turf. He'd secured pole position during qualifying, setting the stage for what promised to be an exciting race. As the lights went out, Max got a clean start, maintaining his lead into the first corner. But this wasn't going to be a simple lights to flag victory. Throughout the race, he faced stiff competition, particularly from the Mercedes duo of Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. Now let's talk about Lewis Hamilton for a moment. He is a 7-time world champion, arguably one of the greatest drivers in F1 history, and he was giving it his all to catch Verstappen. The Mercedes team had been struggling earlier in the season, but they'd made improvements and Hamilton was showing why he's considered a legend. But Max Verstappen was in a league of his own that day. Lap after lap, he maintained his pace, managing his tyres brilliantly and responding to every strategy move Mercedes threw at him. When Hamilton closed the gap, Max found another gear and pulled away again. The real drama came in the final stages of the race. A late virtual safety car, followed by a full safety car, bunched up the field. This could have spelled trouble for Max, as it erased his hard-earned lead. But when the race resumed, Max showed his class once again. He nailed the restart, immediately pulling away from the pack.
Going green, and Verstappen has got a decent toe behind Hamilton, and Verstappen is going wheel to wheel down the main straight with Hamilton, and Verstappen is ahead going into turn 1. Lewis Hamilton's been overtaken by Max Verstappen right at the start.
In those final laps, Max didn't just win, he put on a masterclass. He crossed the finish line with a comfortable margin, sending the Dutch fans into a frenzy. Hamilton, despite his best efforts, had to settle for 4th place. Verstappen versus Lewis Hamilton, 2019 Brazil GP. Now, starting from pole position, Max Verstappen got a clean getaway and held onto the lead. But this was Formula 1, and nothing was ever that simple, right? As the race unfolded, it became clear that we were in for a treat. Verstappen's Red Bull and Hamilton's Mercedes were in a league of their own, trading fastest laps and pushing each other to the limit. The young Dutch lion versus the seasoned British champion. It was the kind of rivalry that made F1 so exciting. Hamilton had already clinched his 6th World Championship 2 weeks earlier in Austin. He had nothing to prove, but Lewis, being Lewis, he wasn't about to take it easy. Verstappen, on the other hand, was still establishing himself as a force to be reckoned with in F1. He had raw speed and aggression, but could he really go toe-to-toe with one of the greatest drivers of all time? The answer, as we were about to find out, was a resounding yes. The first major moment came after the initial round of pit stops. Verstappen pitted first and executed a perfect outlap. Hamilton pitted a lap later, and as he exited the pit lane, there was Max charging past him into turn 1. It was a brilliant move, catching Hamilton off guard and reasserting his control over the race. But Hamilton wasn't a 6-time world champion for nothing. He kept the pressure on, staying within DRS range and looking for any opportunity to strike back. Then came the second pivotal moment. A safety car was deployed after Valtteri Bottas' Mercedes suffered an engine failure. Verstappen made a bold call to pit for fresh tyres, dropping behind Hamilton but with the advantage of newer rubber. When the race restarted, what followed was pure racing magic. Verstappen, on his fresh tyres, launched an attack on Hamilton into turn 1.
Comes wheel to wheel with Lewis Hamilton, round the outside of turn 1 he goes. Verstappen's got the restart sorted. That was fantastic. Albon's got ahead.
It was a move of supreme confidence and skill. Outbraking the master of late braking himself, Max swept around the outside, reclaiming the lead in spectacular fashion. It wasn't just the overtake itself that was impressive, it was the statement it made. Here was Verstappen, taking the fight to Hamilton not once but twice in the same race. He wasn't intimidated by Hamilton's reputation or achievements. He was racing him as an equal and coming out on top. As the checkered flag fell, it was Verstappen who took the victory. Verstappen dominating the 2021 Styrian GP. This was the 8th round of the 2021 Formula 1 World Championship, and the title fight between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton was heating up. Verstappen had secured pole position in qualifying, but we all knew that in F1 anything could happen on race day. As the lights went out, Max got a perfect start, maintaining his lead into turn 1. But the real story of this race wasn't just about the start, it was about what happened over the next 71 laps. From the moment the race began, Verstappen was in a league of his own. He wasn't just fast, he was metronomic in his consistency. Lap after lap he extended his lead, leaving the rest of the field in his dust. Hamilton's Mercedes, usually the class of the field, looked ordinary compared to Verstappen's Red Bull on this day. As the race progressed, Verstappen's lead grew and Verstappen grew. It wasn't just a few seconds, we're talking about a commanding advantage. By the halfway point, it was clear that, barring any mechanical issues or freak weather event, this was Verstappen's race to lose. As the laps wound down, the gap between Verstappen and Hamilton continued to grow. It wasn't just a victory, it was a statement. Verstappen crossed the finish line a staggering 35 seconds ahead of Hamilton. In F1 terms, that's an eternity. That race was just one of Max Verstappen's dominant performances. There are other races where Verstappen had incredible win margins. Want to know more? Well, check out this video to see some of his most impressive victories.